So I'd now like to introduce Hannah Lewis, who is going to be our first inspirational speaker. Hannah is a powerhouse of mental health campaigning and awareness, and as I mentioned before, has been behind our Structure Self-Help support group and has been a real driving force behind that. Thank you, Hannah.
Quite an introduction for such an uninspiring PowerPoint. Hi everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this morning so far. I know I've really enjoyed those two keynotes. Hope you found them as interesting as I have. So when Kitty first asked me to be an inspirational speaker today, my initial thought was, what's so inspirational about me? Who'd want to listen to me? But then I thought, that would be the BDD voice talking again. And to think about how far I've come to even be able to acknowledge that, I guess justifies why I'm here speaking to you all now. Because by no means has it been easy. See, to externalise that BDD voice that was once so ingrained into my being and my worldview. Because I sought help for my BDD just after I was 18, when I moved away from home to university. That was after weeks and months of being housebound, unable to leave my university halls without enduring a panic attack, because I was so afraid of inflicting my appearance on the general public. When I did start seeking help though, we worked out that I first experienced BDD when I was around 8 or 9 years old, which just feels too young to hate yourself so intensely. And I think that's why the schools work that Rob and Amita have been talking about is so, so crucial. Because I remember very, very distinctly, we all had to have our pictures taken to go on this achievement wall. And as soon as I saw that photo of myself, I broke down. I was heartbroken, I was distraught. I couldn't breathe because I was so upset because of my appearance. And this was the beginning of a decade of camouflaging, delusional thinking, obsessions, compulsions that dominated my adolescence. I'd catch a glimpse of my reflection and immediately break down in tears because I was just so perplexed at the abnormality of my appearance. I was convinced that I couldn't have been conceived naturally and that the only explanation was that I was a scientific experiment, like a test tube baby, but that had gone terribly, terribly wrong. But I'm keen to use this 10 minutes or so that I have wisely. I don't want to spend too much time reminiscing on how awful BDD was for me, because those of us who are here today, who've either experienced BDD firsthand, cared for or treated someone who has, knows exactly how devastating it is to experience. What I would like to do, however, is share the short animation with you. I was a part of for BBC Three. Thank you to the Foundation for putting me forward. And I thought with the theme of the arts and creativity of today's conference, it'd be nice to share this visualisation of my experience of BDD. So I think it is quite powerful. I hope you agree. I remember in primary school, the teacher asked us what we would all do if we won the lottery. And my peers were saying, go on holiday, give my mum some presents. And all I could think about was I'd get my ears pinned back, a nose job, my forehead reduced, I'd have a skin peel. I was so convinced that the way I looked was horrific and abnormal. The only explanation I could think of was that I was a scientific experiment gone horribly wrong. When I was a teenager, I discovered makeup. But for me, it was more of a camouflage so that I could put on a mask and hide what I thought was this hideous face. It got to the point where I couldn't leave the house without 3 layers of makeup on. And that's if I could leave the house at all. Housebound for most of my adolescence, really. I got a referral to a psychologist. It was like he was inside my mind. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, there's a name for it. It's called body dysmorphic disorder, and we can beat it.
Now, when I think about myself, I have to immediately look internally. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I can be quite funny. I can make people around me, like my friends and family, smile, and that really makes me warm inside. I'm motivated to help others, and I'm motivated by kindness. And I think that's actually a really nice quality for anyone to have. So I'm 25 now, and I've been in treatment for BDD for about 6-7 years, I guess. It's a work in progress. Every time I relapse, it's always less worse than the time before. I still battle every day with these feelings of not being good enough and low self-worth and just feeling like living is so much more difficult than just calling it. I just carry on because I'm going to win the war eventually.
I hope you enjoyed that. But I think the last section there is containing the key message that I would really like to convey to you all today. Because I don't want to stand up here and say, that's it. Once you hit rock bottom, once you've felt the worst that you possibly can, then it's a straight trajectory to recovery, because that would be dishonest. Despite receiving rounds of CBT and trialling different types of medication, I experienced a profound relapse in 2015. I was suicidal, regularly making attempts on my life because I couldn't bear to live in this body of mine that felt like a stranger's. I've actually often used the metaphor of a spacesuit to describe my BDD. I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but it's just that feeling of living in a body that isn't yours. I couldn't wear clothes that weren't baggy sweatpants and oversized t-shirts because anything that heightened my awareness of the skin I was in was just so triggering. And the skin on my face was red raw at this time because of the compulsive skin picking I was doing. It was just one of the ways I would self-harm during this period. What I will say, however, are 3 simple words that you mustn't forget even when you're at crisis point. It gets better. And I don't know who needs to hear that today. Because I'm living proof. I've had more treatment since that, and this time to address the bulimia that developed in response to my BDD. And I still have those good days and those bad days, but now I feel like there's been a shift in that I can control my BDD and it doesn't control me. It's almost as though my functioning is on par with that of an actual human adult, and I think that's quite an achievement for anyone who's been housebound due to BDD. And I never thought I'd be one of those women who does the makeup on the bus in 3 minutes, but I actually quite enjoy that now. I've been lucky enough to use my own negative experiences of BDD to contribute to the developing knowledge in the field. I'm about 6 weeks into my PhD, where I want to work towards the prevention of body image disturbance, using school-based interventions as a way to do that. I've worked in mental health policy, not sure much of a powerhouse, Rob, that was a bit much. But I have been able to influence change in the NHS and civil service, which is pretty cool, I guess. But the thing I'm most proud of doing is working for the BDD Foundation on the structural support group project that Rob was talking about earlier. We've looked at adapting evidence-based treatment for BDD into a group format to increase its accessibility, because those of us in here must know the waiting lists are horrendous and the treatment sometimes always isn't up to nice guidelines. I'm actually in the process of evaluating the second phase of the pilot. The outcomes are just incredible. It shows the difference that good treatment and support can have on someone's recovery. People have returned to uni, had job interviews, first time in years, reconnected with friends and the family and partners, and one person went swimming with a little boy for the first time. It's just such a privilege and so moving to be a part of that. The group's also given people like myself, who have lived experience of BDD, an opportunity to share our insights into treatment and recovery. I think it truly makes a difference to have someone supporting you who can say, I've been there and I get it. So, on that note, I'd quite like to share with you all here today a couple of my own tips, how I've managed to stay on the straight and narrow with my recovery from BDD. So here are 5 things I wish someone had told me before the age of 25. Find out what self-care looks like for you, because I know when I was in treatment, the word self-care got thrown around quite a lot, and sometimes it can be this generic prescription of bubble baths and candles and colouring books, which are great, I'm not disputing that, but maybe for someone with BDD that isn't entirely appropriate. It just so happens that what I found to be my self-care action is manicures. So I go and get my nails done every 2 weeks, take an hour to myself, sit and gossip with my nail technician. Turns out PhDs pay pretty well now. Jokes, they don't. But yeah, it was also really important for me to find something, a self-care action that wasn't appearance-focused. And I found this a really good way to do that. It was still a way that I felt good about myself, but it wasn't entirely focused on all the things I was preoccupied about previously. Now, I don't know who needs to hear this today, but no one looks good in the hairdresser's chair. When they're having your highlights done and you look like a jacket potato, honestly, it stopped me going to the hairdressers for years, and I think it's the same for quite a few people. And it's only recently I've had this realisation, and I really wish I had it earlier, because then I would have had a lot less dead ends for a lot less time. Does anyone know Lizzo? Did anyone go and see her at the O2 Academy in Brixton this week? Me too. Okay, so Lizzo is a singer. She's a body positive activist as well. She's having a real moment this year, but she's been around for a few. And she is therapy. It's the third time I've seen her this week, and in this year, I must add, so there might be a restraining order coming my way soon. But I've just put a sample of some of the lyrics up there, and if I'm ever feeling a bit crap and feeling a bit low, I literally just put her albums on and it just takes me to a better place. So highly, highly advise. And the fourth thing, we were talking about the online world before and how, dating's hard, isn't it, anyway? But then throw BDD into the mix and then throw online culture into the mix, and it's just a bloody nightmare. And I just really wish someone said to me a few years ago, your relationship status is not a reflection of your worth. Because I think sometimes with BDD, you can get a little bit confused about that. And I know I certainly have over the years. So unfortunately, Casper will exist and you probably will get ghosted, but it shouldn't impact your recovery. It might do, but, just be mindful of that. And the fourth and final thing, of course, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for me incredible friends and family. They put up with me nonsense and call out my BDD when they have to. And I just really wanted to say something about this middle picture, actually, because this is the first candid photo that was ever taken of me, I think, anyway. And me and my friend, we were out having a lovely time, and she just took this picture, and obviously I was mortified. She didn't tell me. I wasn't prepared. I was like, what are you doing? And then she was like, Han, this is one of the nicest pictures of us I've ever taken. And it's because when I look at that now, I see what she means. I see the laughter, and I see the fun, and I see the warmth. And I don't see, I could list a million things that I think's wrong with my face there, but I don't see that anymore. And I think to have that shift where you look at a picture and you remember the good time that you were having rather than your appearance concerns, that's really liberating, and I highly recommend. So, I am going to close now, and I'd like to close just by reading a poem I wrote, again, in keeping with the theme of arts and creativity of today's conference, because writing has been a real tool for me in my recovery. I really encourage others as well to pick up a pen if they ever feel like they can't quite articulate what's happening to them. So this poem I wrote, it's called The Cage, and that's another metaphor I use to describe my BDD. Don't know if that resonates with anyone. But here we go. I can see it. I can see the life I want to live, but there's something inside me which I can't forgive. I'm trapped in this cage and I feel so restrained. I want to be better, but I'm shackled, I'm chained. The restraint that I feel is too much to bear. It doesn't even matter what clothes I wear. I'm chained to you, body dysmorphic disorder. And the things you say to me are like a broken record. You're so fat, you're so ugly, you make children cry. You're deformed and you're hideous, you deserve to die. For so long you said this, and so I believed, that if I was to disappear, the world would be relieved. The cage is my body, scratched at and picked. They tell me to stop, but I'm an addict. And with my hand down my throat and tears in my eyes, look what I do because of your lies. Let me out, let me out. I kick and I scream. I'm out of the cage. Is this but a dream? I'm no longer anxious, nauseous, or numb, and I appreciate the human that I have become. I have marks on my body where the shackles once were, but a adamant self-hatred will not reoccur, for I'm out of my cage and my body is healing, and this freedom I now have is a wonderful feeling. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much, Hannah. That truly was inspiring and very moving. And it's always a great joy to hear someone take their recovery, make it their own, and keep driving forwards with it. And that, as clinicians and as a charity, that's exactly what we want to see. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. Okay.